Hello and welcome to the quick blip version of the Rev Limit podcast. My name is Bryan Carey. Unfortunately, Anthony and Corey could not all make it tonight, so I'm just going to give you a quick, about 5-minute podcast to cover some of the weekend's action, and then hopefully at the end of this week, possibly Friday, we'll have a full version of the Rev Limit podcast ahead of the Canadian Grand Prix this weekend. So let's just recap quickly. First of all, from the sim racing world, most important to both myself and to Corey, Corey and I ran the iRacing Indy 500. There were 4 races on the weekend, 1 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. Corey and I ran the Friday night race. 2 of us, I think we started 17th and 18th in the second split of the groupings there. So what that means for you uninitiated with how those big events work on iRacing is you'll set your qualifying times. And I think we had over 650 people logged into the Friday night race. So they group you in groups of 33. So we're in the second fastest one. So not quite the top group, but not doing too bad. Like I said, about 17th and 18th. Started off well. We had a lot of work during the week working on setups, trying to get the race set up just right. I think we did a pretty good job. It wasn't the fastest setup out there, but it turned out that our engineering skills, or at least trial and error, worked pretty well, and it ran consistently through the whole run, and we're able to slowly, as the race went on, progressively pick off cars. You can also look at Corey has a good race recap that he wrote on his blog there, which hopefully we can get linked down there below for you, with a good YouTube clip of the final couple laps. But we went for the first 130 some odd laps, green flag. Unfortunately, I was involved in an incident which brought out the first yellow. Lap car ahead of me got into the wall, came down, collected me a little bit of damage, got into turn 1 there, and entering turn 1, unfortunately, the damage caused me to spin. Luckily, I was able to stay on the lead lap, get the car back to pit lane and repaired, and continue on. A few incidents, yellow flags later, about 15 laps in, I got back to Corey, and I ended up starting with 15 laps left, 3rd and 4th. Ran a few laps, held our positions. Unfortunately, towards the end, trying to hold on to my position, I caught the ball and unfortunately brought in another yellow. I say unfortunately for myself, but for Corey, he ended up being in second place with a 2-lap restart at the end. Went aggressive on his setup options, almost lost the car in turns 1 and 2. Third place got around for second, so Corey was trying to hold on to that last podium position. However, the second place car is a lot faster than the first place car. Caught him going into turn 3, and what happened was the first place car, not willing to give up as much position, ran up into the second place car, or at that time the first place car. They got together. Corey snuck through and won the iRacing Indy 500 second split, but all in all, an amazing result for us. We don't normally run this Indy car, the both of us, so we were kind of going into this cold, and while I didn't finish, I felt very proud of Corey's result there. It was quite the effort and amazing to see. So that goes from the sim world, that's our story, to real life was the Duel in Detroit doubleheader at the Belle Isle circuit in Detroit, Michigan, basically an island in the Detroit River between Detroit and Windsor, Ontario. An interesting venue for an IndyCar race, but it's been a mainstay on the circuit for, as long as I can remember, since at least the early 90s, I think late 80s. I don't remember exactly when the first race was, but the track has seen several configurations. This one here, long straightaway heading from first and second turns all the way down to turn 3, brings a lot of action and a lot of crashes. Nothing too serious, but it tends to be a lot of bumping and banging in turn 3. The first race, inclement weather cut it short to 47 laps. Carlos Munoz ended up winning that race by employing a brilliant tire strategy, able to stay out longer on the slick tires in a track that was progressively getting wetter, but skillfully able to hang on to the car and able to gain a lot of time that way. And again, for those uninitiated, at least in the Indy cars, I mean, this is applicable to most forms of racing, but an Indy car on slick tires is normally a lot faster, even in slightly wet conditions. The only problem is you go a little bit offline, you could end up in a wall. So Carlos Munoz was able to hold out for the longest of all his competitors, staying out on that dry, or that progressively getting wet track on the dry tires, made a late pit stop for wet tires. Unfortunately, the lightning came, stopped the race early, unfortunately for us fans, but fortunately for Carlos Munoz, his first ever IndyCar Series victory became official. As he said after the race, he would have liked to do it on the track. However, a win is a win, and he took that momentum into race 2. Unfortunately, 6 laps into race 2, Carlos Munoz engine expired, end of the race for him, but it set it up for a full length, or nearly full length. I think they're 1 lap short at the end. Race, which was eventually won by Sebastian Bourdais in another circumstance where race started off wet, progressively became drier in this case, and Bourdais employed his tire strategy and fuel strategy to maximum effect to take his first win of the season, his first since the, I believe, race 1 of Toronto last year, which I was able to attend. So 2 races of IndyCar this weekend. We had Carlos Munoz winning race 1, Sebastian Bourdais win race 2. I believe the driver of the weekend, and for myself, much maligned, or not so much maligned, but really not a strong opinion of, was Connor Daly, who had a fantastic race in race 2. Started from mid-pack. Few bad things happened to him in the race that kept putting him back in the field, but he was always able to work himself forward. Also driving a Honda-powered car, which has not been the preferred engine aero kit package this year, so great result for Connor Daly. This weekend, the series will return to the high-banked 1.5-mile Texas Motor Speedway. Always an exciting race ever since they went to the Dallara DW12. It's been quite an entertaining show at Texas as opposed to previous years where it's been basically almost like restrictor plate racing in NASCAR, which was obviously not ideal in open-wheeled Indy cars. So that'll be this weekend. This coming weekend will be the Canadian Grand Prix. We'll speak more about that when Anthony and Corey rejoin me at the end of the week. That's it for me right now. Bryan Carey with the, as we call it, the quick blip version of the Rev Limit podcast, and we will see you, all 3 of us, with a full version later in the week. Bye for now.